Sir, inflation, how worried are you? 4.9% on the last sprint. And of course, the idea that the Fed has already raised 50 bips. But the central bank governor has always been saying that sana our growth would be higher than the inflation, diba? That we don't need to follow in step necessarily so that we don't hurt the consumers' pockets, higher interest rates at the time of recovery. How worried are you that our growth story will not compensate for the increase in prices, especially since these are supply side driven by wars, by things outside of our control?
Okay, let's talk about growth first. The reopening theme that's playing out very well. We saw improved mobility, better PMI numbers as reflected in the labor data and also in the trade data. As such, we're not really anticipating a regression towards a negative path for growth, but rather could be slower than potential of positive growth because of the effects of inflation to consumption. So slower domestic consumption because of inflation and the trade situation may dampen recovery, though it's not going to derail it. No? We're expecting still a positive trajectory for growth this year. Of course, better than 2021. And talking about inflation, it remains cost push. We saw the usual suspects. You have food, transport, and utility costs driving up faster than expected inflation print, with all signs so far pointing to inflation remaining elevated. No? Those are actually better solved by fiscal policies. No? But of course, the nudge should come from the monetary side. So far, likely the latest headline print in April is not yet the peak. No? We could expect probably higher inflation coming in May or June before tempering down and likely remaining above the 4% area for the balance of the year. So that build up in price pressures will need a preemptive check from the monetary authorities. Of course, we have the Fed actions as well. Now, those decisive actions by the Fed, which incidentally is also geared towards controlling inflation, should make the BSP and all other central banks think of the timing issue. So probably a rate hike from our central bank could be symbolic, no? Given that it could begin with a small hike only. But that will help assure the market and the general public as well that monetary policy is aware of the situation and is poised to do something about it. So even if we end up at 3/4 by the end of this year from our current 2%, that's still far from the pre-pandemic policy rate of 4%. No? So it's still going to be accommodative despite the fact that there's going to be some rate hike.
Is there going to be, or how important is the new president going to be in pushing for external relations with trade? During the Duterte administration, we were generally comfortable with a deficit because he wanted to grow. He wanted this build. Okay lang kung capital imports yung importation. But now, we need to recover the export sector. We need to be paying back all the debt of COVID. And do you see in any of the platforms of any of the candidates this notion?
Well, some of the platforms that I've been reading up on seem to be clear. No? Some are more generalized. However, one thing is clear. Although probably we're in the midst of, well, it's not really, some are calling it the Great Reset. No? So probably there's going to be some redirection of trade, some manufacturing companies closing shop in China and relocating elsewhere, and also some wanting to, especially Europe, no? China's biggest partner, they're trying to review their economic dependence towards China, no? Especially the importance of the ports there. No? So what we've been seeing in those draconian policies that were in China, no, it's affecting global trade, and that's beyond the control of the economies who are trading with them and using the ports. No? So likely there's going to be some shift towards probably a more linear way to do external trade. No? But that's still going to be really dependent on external relations and the trade agreements that we will be agreeing with. So To answer your question, I think it's very important to be able to renew or to review as well where we stand as regards to trade policies. No, probably it's high time as well to be able to strengthen those ties with the ASEAN. No, with the Philippines being one of the strongest projected to recover in the ASEAN 5, no, according to IMF. No? So we could likely take that lead. And being geographically closer to all those other countries, there's a possibility, that if we are able to band together with our neighbors, that we could get favorable trade agreements with other trading countries.
Sir,
so that's going to be very important.
Bilang